Hello and welcome to Sky Career Talks, why we display why it's great to learn with us and communicate. I'm your host, David James, and today I'm super excited to be speaking with Christian Noel. Christian double majored in information technology, informatics, and labor and employee relations. He was contracted to work with Microsoft in a license-based program thereafter. From there, Christian leveraged the knowledge of the structure from his experiences to move into a cloud-based role in an account management role that became more financial and report-based than analysis. This would prepare for the systems engineer role that Christian would then take on, but then he switched to an AWS licensing role for Amazon, leveraging his experiences, assets, and skill sets for this role. Currently, Christian works within the cloud marketplace at CrowdStrike. This short introduction doesn't give justice to Christian's innovative career trajectory and journey within the space. So I present to you now my interview with Christian Noel. So thank you for taking the time to be here with us, Christian. Before we begin, I must ask, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's Friday, so it's good to end the week out with a productive conversation.
Absolutely.
So to kick us off, give us a brief overview of your career journey so far.
Well, I'm not going to say it was straightforward. I kind of took a 3-year break after high school, after getting to Rutgers and doing a double major, one of them being the IT program. I ended up graduating with honors, Gamma Nu Eta. Going from there, decided to try and get somewhere in tech, and Microsoft ended up being the first, I guess, field or scope that I was focused on. I did Microsoft contracting, which is more of a license-based program, more administrative work and auditing of contracts for customers, making sure that something that I didn't know was a big deal, licensing, is up to date, making sure they're paying the right prices, trying to get the best price, and making all of that work well. Moving from there, I kind of used my knowledge of Microsoft, not technical knowledge, but understanding of how their structure is in order to get into a cloud-based role. And that cloud-based role ended up being a cloud account manager. So that focus is more financial and more analysis of reports. We did a little bit of sorry about that. We did a little bit of technical troubleshooting, but for the most part, it was really report-based, analyzing data and reporting back to the customer. I can say the technical side of that role did prepare me for the systems engineering role that I took. And that was a big jump from being more operational focused to being more technical, where now I'm on call. Now I'm answering calls at 3 a.m., trying to fix problems before 8 a.m. I'm on vacation and it just so happened to get a phone call that something went down, and now it's, everybody's running to fix it. So that kind of, I wouldn't say pushed me away from the technical side of things, because my interest in learning that information about cloud systems and how to troubleshoot them, how to fix them, how to build them out, it was still there. So when I decided to switch from being a systems engineer, I went away from Microsoft and towards AWS for Amazon. Similar to the Microsoft role that I had when it was auditing and more administrative, this was for AWS licensing. So there was a gap that needed to be filled. I knew I could fill it, threw my name in the hat, and they picked it up. So after taking that role on and becoming what they would consider somewhat of an expert, started getting headhunted a little bit. So that's kind of how I ended up at the role I'm in now. My company decided to reach out and say, we need this. You have these skills. We're really impressed. Will you join us? I was a little hesitant, being at my first company for almost 5 years. It's like, that's a big jump, it's something brand new, something a little bit scary, but it's also something new and still familiar. I know I can excel in it. So decided to take the jump, and now I'm at CrowdStrike and, doing great. So
And I'm curious, being in different companies, each company is very different and they utilize different skill sets. And you mentioned banking and finance. How important is it to learn outside of your own industry different skill sets, such as finance or being able to read and understand data or numbers?
I'd say it's very important. I wouldn't say as important to where you would need to be an expert in finance. You kind of just need to understand, well, what are the important parts of cloud? what do I need to focus on learning for cloud? And that's just for my particular field. I'm sure, in every other scope of IT, there's the same thing, just a different, scope. But for me, it was more, once we're in the cloud, if a customer doesn't understand how they're using it, how do we make it as clear as day? This is where your money is going. This is how we can save you money. This is how you can make it a little bit better. So my role now is to just create efficiencies in processes and workflows. I do automation for the most part. If there's a manual process, how do we make it so that it's automated? And that sounds like you're taking jobs away and things, but realistically, the whole goal is to have automation in place because that's how you innovate and you grow at scale. So you're not really losing jobs; you're just creating jobs in a different space. So everything that's automated, it breaks here and there. There's nothing you can really do, but you need to know how to fix it. That's where we come in, knowing how to fix it, coming in to fix it, and then making sure you maintain it moving forward.
So I'm interested, what does a normal day look like for you? Because no 2 days are the same, and are the hours move away from a traditional 9 to 5?
Yeah, so my company is, I believe, 70% remote. So one being remote, I'll tell you right now, that does not mean you're just working your typical 9 to 5. I'm global. So by the time I wake up in the morning, someone else is halfway through their day. They have questions that they need answered. They have tasks that need to be completed. And it's on me to make sure that I prioritize my time well enough to make sure I tend to them as well as whatever is going to come along throughout the day. In my scenario, I would say 80% of my day is probably going to be similar to the day before, just new tasks. Whereas that last 20% is me trying to make some type of progress on an enhancement or innovate in some way on a process. So it's really more so, how do you structure your day so that you can get what you find valuable done, as well as help sales teams and help partners out and achieve everyone's goal at the same time. So it's really, really, really important about time management.
And I'm curious, being the remote model and workplace organizations coming out of COVID and the pandemic, um, how did COVID and the pandemic impact your industry and work?
Ooh, yeah, it definitely impacted our industry all as a whole. Luckily, I got remote work from my previous company in, I believe it was October of 2019. So right before the pandemic hit, I got remote work. I relocated out of New Jersey, which in itself was a kind of a big step to take because I'm relocating somewhere where I'm unfamiliar with the land and don't really have a network, don't have connections. But being remote allowed me to also have the opportunity to work and meet people during the day. If I needed to do something and I needed to get it done, I could handle the task and get right back to work as soon as I needed to. So when it comes down to that, COVID might have derailed it for maybe a few months, where it was, being busy just became an everyday, like an everyday thing. There was no avoiding just waking up and it being a madhouse because of all the confusion at the time. But once you got past that, it was business as usual. I actually switched roles April 2021, 2021, yeah. 2020, April 2021, I switched roles and decided to switch from being more of the operational under AWS licensing to becoming marketplace, which is, I mean, it's mostly global. You're dealing with straight cloud. So that just made life easier for me not to have to really be concerned with going into an office anymore. So that it benefited me in the long run, but definitely was a struggle during that initial phase.
And with that change in the remote work model, I'm sure there was an increased supply and demand and in terms of business, clientele, more accounts, especially especially now, some business models are still working remotely, and they've transformed that model, that modality to where perhaps they don't need to always be in the office. But with that increased remote work, increases a big supply and demand, in terms of technology.
Absolutely. In my previous role, actually, like I said, COVID kicked off while I was a systems engineer, actually. So those 3 a.m. phone calls, those are real examples that COVID was a confusing time. And being an essential worker without actually being an essential worker is the thing that we realized. We had to go to work. We maintained hospitals, we maintained governments, schools, all of that. So while everybody was trying to ramp up and become a cloud-based or remote-based organization, well, we're the ones who are doing that for them. So that demand, yeah, I'll tell you, that demand was there, and meeting it, yeah, there was a challenge, but realistically, getting through that prepared us for everything that was to come afterwards. If that kicked off again, we'd be perfectly fine. We know what we need to do.
And I think there were more jobs born out of that chaos and crisis, right? Even looking now, I mean, it's such in high demand for people to be able to know and utilize and leverage those skills.
Yeah, absolutely. There's still a skills gap though. So the demand being there doesn't necessarily mean that the people are trained up enough. They don't have the certifications, whatever the case may be. The demand increased so high. How do you learn at that pace? We had a few months to really hit the ground running when COVID broke out. So if you weren't already in a space where you were an expert, well, how fast can you become one? Like that's what it really comes down to. It's like, all right, well now how can you show like your skills will translate into something that can ramp up quickly because we need it right now. We needed it yesterday.
Well, I'm curious, in terms of talking about skill sets, what can students be doing now to leverage those skills, both technical and interpersonal?
Oh, interpersonal first, I'd say make sure those group projects that you're tasked to do, you take them seriously. You don't want to be the person who's not pulling their own weight at a company when you have a project that's being worked on between multiple teams cross functionally, and you're the odd man out who's not holding your weight. There are program managers, there are everyone who's supposed to keep the team together, but realistically, it's about your personality to an extent and how you're going to be able to communicate with anyone. Like I said, we're global. I have to communicate with anyone who needs help. It is what it is at that point. So if I can't communicate and convey my point properly, I may just cause even further confusion, which causes delays in processes. That's money lost. So, as far as skills, find what you like, learn as much as you can on your own. There's free resources, there's challenges you can do, find a mentor, something that's going to give you any type of insight into what the enterprise, the corporate level, government, startups, whatever that field that you're really interested in, try and get some hands-on experience, do an internship, do anything you can do to actually see what the real day-to-day is. I had no idea what IT really consisted of until I started my job. When I started my job, I was like, this is way more than just computers and people having to click buttons. It's really licensing, there's policy, there's legal, finance, all of that stuff is in IT. Where do you fit into it? What do you like to do? A lot of people, a lot of people end up saying, oh yeah, I know how to code. I learned how to code. Do you want to code every day? Do you want to do that all day? Do you want to do it for someone else? Or do you like doing it for yourself? That's what the question I had to ask myself. Like, what do I like doing for myself above all? Because that's what's going to translate and feel meaningful at the end of the day.
So I'm curious, how does one get into this field? I know you mentioned, online free resources, certifications students could be using right now to really hone in and build up their craft. But are portfolios, websites needed, or networking? The whole idea of networking, relationship building, and utilizing LinkedIn and having that presence. How important is to have a combination of those elements that I just mentioned?
I'll tell you right now, the social media aspect of it, I'm not really a fan of personally, but it is a good way to just build a brand name. And any projects you're working on, that's also something you want to keep note of, build that portfolio, like you said. Personally, I spoke with every one of my professors when I was in college. Like that's why I still go back. I have a relationship with everyone who I interacted with because they're the ones who know what's going on in the field. They've been around longer than we have, and they can help out. They can help us navigate what we really want to do. I'd say if the professors have time after class to talk, use it. Speak with them. You never know who they know. You never know who they will refer you to. anything that you do outside of direct work with IT, volunteer work, organizations like seeing that. They like seeing that you can maintain coursework while doing extracurricular activities or doing things like giving back to your community. I regularly do community work. Like that's actually something I would do regardless of the job that I'm in. But it also does look good. Now I'm an ambassador for my company as well. So, opens up the door for more opportunities. Someone sees you're willing to give back, they're willing to help.
And it's such an important, crucial, I don't even want to say skill set, just to be engaged within our community from a critical citizenship, just being able to engage within our community, help, give back, volunteer,
Mhm.
um, and be really in touch with what's happening in society, and just connecting with other people and being able to build that relationship and foundation.
Absolutely. And I wanted to speak on the certification aspect of that. If you have the opportunity, if you do get into a job or any company that will sponsor your certifications, take advantage of it. I think I did 9 certifications in a year once I found out that my company would sponsor them. Why not? If I can do them and they're paying for them, I mean, I'll take that credential. And it does nothing but, follow me. Wherever I go, I still have that. I still attain that certain credential. It might be a little bit harder for college students, but at the same time, the resources that I used for my first 3 certifications were all free and online. So if you have 8 hours, 9 hours, you have a course that's free that'll teach you at least the bare minimum that you need to know in order to enter what I would say the cloud space. But there's also, different scopes, different programs. It's just about how hard are you willing to look for these things?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all there on YouTube, or at least guiding you.
Yep. YouTube, LinkedIn, they have training programs, Again, you never understand what enterprise level or corporate level applications are used until you have an experience or someone who's willing to show them to you. So that's the main thing. Try and get as much hands-on experience or access to these things as you can before you're actually thrown into the company.
So I'm interested, you mentioned being passionate about your work, or at least within that line of theme. Is there a favorite part of the job, or something that drives or motivates you every day?
Uh I would say the fact that every day I can learn something new, whether it be something that I personally chose to go out of my way to learn or something that I just realized I didn't understand too much myself, I can always say, well, now I want to learn that. And with me learning it, now I can teach it to someone else. So giving back, I have nephews, I have, younger family members. I'd love to share that knowledge with them so that they're able to start off earlier than I did. There's no reason why I even started off as late as I did, other than I didn't know that this was a career option for me. So now that we have the knowledge, I'm like, let's pass this along. You're 12, 13, 14. You know what you're doing with a computer already. You just don't know how it can translate into a career or entrepreneurship. So that's where we're trying to just, bridge the gap and let people know that there is a space for you in tech. It's just where is it and what do you like doing?
Really taking the time to research, all the different positions, or the positions that are in demand, or perhaps could be in demand in the near future, because
Mm-hmm.
technology is always expanding and advancing, and there are new startup companies forming, and always within corporations, departments are expanding and creating new departments within there. Um, and to end, are there any lasting words, advice, or wisdom that you provide students, or perhaps something you knew when you were younger?
Uh, like I said, I wish I would have started earlier. That 3 year gap that I took after high school, I would say it was only because I didn't know any better. I would have absolutely excelled at any point where I started my career in IT. I already knew what computers were about. I already knew how to build them. I could have done something in hardware. I could have done the job that I first started off doing. It was nothing but an administrative role. I think just sitting down and taking the time out to say, what part of this do I like and how do I make money doing this is what people really need to, focus on. Like, yes, this is a hobby. This is something that I know. How can I build on it? And once you start building on it, you realize, well, now that I know and I'm in the field, I'm in the space, how can I give back using what I know? And I feel like that's where I'm at now. How do I give back with whatever knowledge I've gained over the last few years? and I'm not going to say I've been around in the field long. Like I took a 3-year break. I've only been in the field since 2016, 2015. So in that short amount of time, I've had multiple jobs, but they've all been progressive for a reason. As long as you're willing to work hard, people will notice that you're working hard and they will start to, compensate you or look out for you in a sense because they know, hey, the job's going to get done when I call on this person.
Absolutely.
So
Well, thank you. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today, Christian. It's been great being able to learn from you and your career journey. So, that other students could, identify and, sort of unlock, okay, perhaps this is what I need to be doing. Perhaps this is where I need to pivot. Perhaps I need to be logging on to really engage myself and learn more about my field, through these free resources out there. So thank you for being able to be in conversation with us today.
absolutely.
That again was my interview with Christian Noel. We look forward to connecting with Christian very soon. Thank you all for joining us for another edition of Sky Career Talks, and be sure to share, like, comment, and subscribe. Also follow our LinkedIn group page, Sky Career Corners, to connect with our brilliant students and alumni. Until next time, I'm David James. Take care.